Okay, let's talk about the Declaration of Independence. Before we talk about this document, let's rewind a little bit. We are looking at the year and years before 1776 in North America. At this time, we are not a country. We are just 13 colonies controlled by Great Britain. Colonies are used to help supply the home or mother country with economic resources. In the colonies, Great Britain had political control over the colonists, even though they were an ocean away. The colonists had no say in their government, and that bothered them. They didn't think it was fair that they had to pay taxes, but they weren't being represented in Parliament. Parliament is the form of government that the British have. The key theme at this time is taxation without representation. Colonists started to get more and more fed up with different taxes, lack of rights, and lack of government participation. They started to get testy with British soldiers, and sometimes it got violent. As violence and more colonists began to get upset, members from each colony met together to discuss their options. At the First Continental Congress, nothing really happened. But at the Second Continental Congress, that's when things got interesting. The members decided that the colonies would unite and go to war against Great Britain. To make it even more legit, they elected a committee to write a document to be sent to King George III in Great Britain. This document was written by Thomas Jefferson, and it is known as the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence declared that the 13 colonies were free and independent from Great Britain. On July 4, 1776, the Declaration was signed and sent to the King, declaring their independence. Thomas Jefferson is the author of this document. He is from Virginia. He ends up being our second vice president and our third president of the United States. But before all of that, he was a plantation owner and an avid reader of philosophy. Thomas Jefferson got his inspiration from John Locke, who was a famous philosopher. John Locke wrote in his writings about something called a social contract and natural rights. Social contract means that people have the right to form their own government in order to protect their freedoms. The colonies did not feel like their rights were being protected by Great Britain, so they wanted to form their own government. Natural rights means that every human has the right to life, liberty, and property. Thomas Jefferson took these two concepts and adds them into the document. However, he does change life, liberty, and property to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Jefferson doesn't stop there. He also adds that we as humans have natural rights, yes, but we also have unalienable rights as well. This means that they can never be taken away from us. Another big theme that Jefferson adds is that government gets the power from the people, meaning they are designed to serve us and to protect us. We give them the power to do that. Lastly, another major theme he adds is that if your rights are being violated, you have the right to overthrow the government. This is an important theme to the colonies because they felt their rights were being violated by the British, so they had the right to overthrow and form their own government. The Declaration of Independence was split into four parts. The first part is the preamble. The preamble is why the document was written and an explanation of separation between the colonies and Great Britain. The second part of the document is the Declaration of Natural Rights. This is the famous part of the Declaration of Independence, the part that most people remember. The famous quote is that we hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The third part of the list is of 28 grievances from the colonies against King George III. These are just, their complaints that they had with him. Lastly, the fourth part is the Resolution of Independence. This is essentially the colonists saying the bond between Great Britain and the colonies are gone. They declare the colonies are free and independent from the British with full power to make war, form alliances, and trade with others. So they're essentially saying, we are our own country. We can do our own things now. Out of the 28 grievances, here's a list of 5 grievances that you should know or remember. These are some of the more common and popular grievances. The first grievance, the British continued to pose taxes without consent. They kept a standing army in the colonies. They did not allow colonists to choose their representatives. They cut the colonists' trade off with some parts of the world. And lastly, they had no trial by jury. Let's review this document. The document declared independence of the colonists from Great Britain. Thomas Jefferson is the author, and he was influenced by a philosopher named John Locke. If you look at the screen, you can see more grievances that were in this document, including the sugar tax, the Stamp Act, the Boston Massacre, which are just some of the more bigger points as well. Why do we think that this is important, and why do we study it? Well, for one, it brought the colonies together. It declared that all people have unalienable rights and that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It points out that the government receives the power from the people, and lastly, that you have the right to overthrow the government if your rights are violated. So again, the Declaration of Independence declared the independence from Great Britain.